Hello. Today, or tonight rather, because it is nighttime here. It's actually quite late. I don't normally film late at night because I do prefer natural lighting, but I'm in the mood for another VR. 2 VRs in less than a month. Who is she? I'm going to do Lisa Papez top 10 intuitive decks. I do have 10 decks lined up here. The first two are cheaters, in my opinion, and I will elaborate once we get to those. Then we've got normal decks to work with. Then I do have some bonus, as 2 bonus decks. And again, I'll explain those when I get to those. And then I have a very last deck that's also a bonus deck that is the worst intuitive deck I have. So I do have 10, but I played around with it a little bit. Yeah, here we go. We're going to get right into it. My first cheater deck is the Friends Tarot. Now, the reason I'm saying this is a cheater deck is because it's not really intuitive when you're looking at a pop culture deck with scenes in it that help you create associations. However, I feel like that's part of being intuitive. Yes, it might be recreations of scenes from shows or movies that you've seen, and those shows or those scenes have the same card meaning. However, I do think that when you come across some of those specific scenes, it can help you get a new jumping off point for your intuition. Maybe something that you didn't think about in the past, maybe a different way of thinking about the card that you didn't think about the card in the past. And similarly, my second deck is my HP tarot deck. So again, I think it's kind of cheating because you associate certain card meanings with certain scenes from the movie. But like I said with the Friends Tarot, I definitely think that it gives you different jumping off points that you might not have otherwise associated with a certain tarot card because of that specific scene that was chosen. Like a lot of emotion comes up for me with this card. So same. Same. Just there's so much that you can pick up from these types of pop culture decks that you wouldn't normally pick up with an RWS clone, for example. Aw. So those were my 2 cheat decks. Now we're going to get into the real nitty gritty, the real intuitive. One of the ones I've chosen is the Trionfi della Luna illustrated pips. So this is another one that it is RWS, but I just get different hits. And I think that this deck for me really helps me with the court cards specifically. Perfect timing. I get a feel for the Knight of Pentacles in this particular scene. The Page of Swords. I get a different feel for the Page of Swords. Queen of Swords. They're all coming up for me. So this deck definitely gives me different intuitive hits. And like the expressions on these creatures' faces, and even their postures and what's happening in the cards, like holding a sword behind the back, all of that helps. This person holding knives to their own throat in the 5 of Swords. Perfect. All of that does definitely help me get intuitive hits when using this deck. Next, we're going to go with MJ Cullinane's The Guardian of the Night Tarot. So this deck gives me intuitive hits. This is another perfect example. We've got the snake in the background here of the 8 of Wands with the hawk attempting to hunt it perhaps. Like, it just gives you great intuitive hits, in my opinion. The Hermit, you know, the spider, the lone wolf, so to speak. The Strength with the snake and the mouse. I mean, it's just the Barracuda for the Knight of Swords, fast moving. You know, you really get an idea of the cards when looking at well done animal decks. I do think that there has to be some thought put into it. Like these 3 raccoons for the 3 of Cups. Perfect. Like, you can just, you know, they're having a merry time. The 9 of Wands with a porcupine and a fox perhaps trying to come after it. 8 of Pentacles. Know your craft. They work pretty damn hard. And even this Hierophant, I think I talked about this in my unboxing of this deck. You can tell that this head mouse is teaching these guys how to get into the juicy stuff in that bakery. These 3 wolves they have to work together to take down big prey. Like, those kinds of associations. Oh, fantastic Judgment card. Shedding skin, liberation. I think that this deck is really well done in that sense. I really get intuitive hits from the animal selections as well as what's going on in the card, in the animal scene. Now we're going to do, shocker, the Intuitive Night Goddess. So one of the things about the Intuitive Night Goddess that I found really helped me and it shocked me was the renaming of a lot of the cards. So Potential for the Fool. These kinds of renamings help me to think of it in a different way as well. The Wayfarer for the Lovers. Now this one, I wouldn't immediately understand why that word was chosen when you read the description in the book. Chef's kiss. This card is the reason I bought this deck. The Mystic for the Hierophant. Revolution. Like, these are just brilliantly selected. Freedom. Words for the Chariot. Or, sorry, words for the different cards that they've used to rename, or they've decided to rename. So Freedom for the Chariot. Reclamation for the Devil. Meditation for, what are we at here? The Hermit? Nope, that's 9. 12 is the Hanged Man. God, I think I get the Hanged Man wrong every time. Introspection for, here we have the Hermit. Perfect. Awakening for Justice, or I'm really struggling here. I did say it was late. Judgment. Chance. This is great. Like, the rewording was brilliantly done. And like I said, it's not something I normally do. As a fairly beginner tarot reader, having these renamed is a struggle for me. But those work so well. And this Empress card, like, you really get a sense of Mother Earth when you look at this card. Like, all of this stuff happening in the background there, brilliantly done. The 3 of Wands, this person is on their way. They've begun their journey. They've made their choice to go on. The 8 of Cups, the cups kind of pouring back into each other, pouring out into each other. The 6 of Wands, again, it's an individual deck. It's mostly individual characters. I think there's only a couple cards that have more people, more than one person in them, but you get an idea of what's happening. And I love the expressions on their faces. I use those a lot in this deck. The determination here. This High Priestess, this whole deck is, oh my God, this Death card. This is going to end up being like an unboxing, a messy unboxing if I let it. But this deck really does work. Oh, here's one with multiple individuals. It really does work for intuitive readings, I have found, especially because of the renaming of some of the cards. Moving right along, we have the Modern Love Tarot. So this deck is in case you didn't figure it out, in case you haven't seen it, it's been around, it's a love deck. And its intention is for love or relationship-based readings. And as such, some of the cards have been appropriately re-imaged. Is that the right word? changed, to be around relationship situations. So especially when you're reading for relationships, I think that the intuitive hits that you get from these kinds of scenery, these kinds of images, beautiful balance. It does give you intuitive hits, especially when it comes to relationships. Some of these scenes that they've got going on here will give you, in my opinion, different intuitive hits than I would maybe get if I was just doing a relationship reading with a RWS clone deck. Perfect. Fighting over the luggage. The Ten of Swords. Divorce certificate. So Ethany has done a great job of putting a different spin on the cards in a relationship manner, but keeping true to the meaning, but allowing you to get a different feel or perhaps a different interpretation. One of my favorite judgment cards. So again, relationship-wise, the intuitive hits that I get from this deck are excellent. So the last deck in the straight up intuitive deck category before we get into like the bonus section is the Divine Feminine Tarot. So this deck, I was actually really worried when I got this deck because it is RWS based, but it's not a clone. And this was probably one of the first ones I got that was not an RWS clone-ish. So I really thought I would struggle with these cards, but I don't. And I would come very close to saying this is my soul deck. So again, I have not started. This Eight of Pentacles, it kind of ties in like a spider, which I think was, no, Eight of Pentacles in the Guardian of the Night Tarot was the hornet bee thing, but a spider was in there. So we get to get different feels for the RWS images that we are used to looking at. This Eight of Swords, it still gets the point of cross. It's not a pip deck, but this is not really an RWS clone in my experience, in my opinion. Some of them are very, very similar, but a lot of them, again, this is another individual deck, very similar to the Intuitive Night Goddess, where it's just one individual on most of the cards. Ooh, the skull's hanging down for the Knight of Wands. One of my favorite lover cards ever. So this deck, again, it just has mostly one individual and different kinds of interpretations. So this person is not on a boat, but they're on clouds. Very cosmic. So they're all in the sky. Queen of Pentacles. We've got our rabbits here. Nine of Wands. This is a bit of a different interpretation because their face kind of does have a peaceful look, not like a wounded warrior type look. But every time I read with this deck, it's like it knows me. It definitely... Oh, here's one with more than one individual with the Four of Wands celebration. One of my favorite Wheel of Fortune cards. So I don't know why. I can't really explain it or articulate it as much as I've been able to with the other decks, but this one does give me great intuitive readings for one that I thought I would struggle with. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about two decks that are included in my bonus section. These decks are maybes. And the reason they are maybes is because they're brand new to me. And I've only worked with them for just a couple of weeks at max. I don't even think that. But I've just got good vibes about them. The first one is the Sasrabito. So I have obviously the mini edition. So with this deck, a lot of people, a lot of unboxings that I watched didn't like this devil card. I do. I think it's super fitting, not just because it's a male presenting figure. It just gives me a different kind of intuitive hit for the devil card. Same with this Emperor card. This gives me those masculine vibes. It actually kind of gives me like Mad Men vibes, which is total Emperor vibes. This Nine of Wands, a different depiction. This almost Pipish, not quite, but it definitely gives you different feels. This Six of Swords, like these cards, this is, the Five of Swords. This is a great Five of Swords interpretation for me. I just think that this deck is going to do wonderfully for me. I feel good about it. I feel I get different hits. Like this Eight of Cups is a great intuitive read for me. I'm really looking forward to working with it. And I do think that the intuitive hits that I have so far received from it have been great. And I do think that it will continue to work well with me. And the second deck that's new to my shelf is the Lunasol Tarot. So this deck is RWS clone-ish, but better, I think, in my opinion. I wish I would have bought this deck when I was a baby tarot beginner, because they just make so much more sense to me, and I feel like there's so much more to go by in a lot of these cards. This card is a great example. There's lots going on in this Devil card. You know, the money with the sword hanging, they've chosen to hold on to the money instead of the sword that could potentially free them. Just chef's kiss again. So this deck has so far beautiful Ten of Swords. It is a little more fluffy, a little more gentle, which is one of the reasons why I bought it. The intent with this deck was to work more with my friends with this deck. It's a bit of a gentler tarot deck. This Death card with the feet being stuck in the ground, the snake shedding the skin, transformation, change. The expression on this individual's face, I love it. Ten of Pentacles. What I like about this card is that this could be friends, this could be family, you know, you don't really know what's happening in that gathering. It's kind of inclusive. I like it in that sense. So, yeah, when I've worked with this deck so far, it has been fantastic. I've got excellent hits off of it intuitively. And like I said, it's not that different from an RWS, but it's different enough that I just feel like I get different intuitive hits. Great Four of Pentacles. They explain it better in some ways, I feel, this deck. This Eight of Swords, I get a totally different feel. Like this really conveys a feeling of isolation to me, whereas I don't get that in a typical Eight of Swords. This Five of Cups is very different. This individual's in a very different environment, but it still gets the point across almost in a better way, in my opinion. So this is one of those ones that I have really high hopes for. Oh my gosh, the Seven of Swords. See, I feel like I almost understand this Seven of Swords better than an RWS. Yes, so high hopes for this deck. It wouldn't have been one that I would normally purchase because I'm not a fluffy deck purchaser, and this is not my color palette. This is not my aesthetic at all. But I am so glad I opted to get the Lunasol Tarot. And now, the bonus deck that gives me 0 intuitive hits, but I will never part with, probably, is the Marigold Tarot. Absolutely no hate for this deck because, as I said, I will never get rid of it. It shuffles beautifully. It's one of my favorite shuffles. It is a linen cardstock, and it just feels so good in my hands. I love the concept of this deck. I love the color palette, the palette, the 3 or 4 colors that are in it. However, it is a pip deck. And, you know, I don't get intuitive hits. This Ten of Wands absolutely nothing. It does nothing for me. Looking at this gives me nothing. I have to go by what I know of the 10 of Wands. The 4 of Pentacles. See, even now I'm looking at it thinking, wait, what is the 4 of Pentacles? So once I think of the meaning, I can kind of piece it together on some of them. This one maybe ever so slightly. This one more so. But oh my gosh, these majors. The majors. The majors I just love. The minors are like this 4 of Cups. Beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I got nothing. Like when I think of the traditional RWS 4 of Cups, I got nothing. I want to have something. I really do. And maybe after years and years of tarot practice, I will get better with the intuitive hits. 5 of Wands. I have no idea what this is. But that is why I don't own pip decks. That's why I cannot do pip decks, because I need to have more to go by. And with pip decks, I find I just go back to my knowledge. Like I don't understand why there's a noose in the 10 of Cups. Don't get it. But I really have to rely on my memorization of the RWS imagery and the RWS meanings for this deck reading to make sense. But like I said, no hate. I love the deck. The creator is very close to where I live. I want to support them, and I did support them. And I love this deck. I just love it. I read with it. Not super frequent, but I definitely still read with it. It's not something that's just collecting dust. I do bust it out. And like I said, go by my memorization of the RWS imagery and meanings. But yes, this is one that I struggle with big time. So that was my kind of bonus, make it an even 10 deck. And that's it. That's my VR to Lisa Papez top 10 intuitive decks. Took me, it was a bit of a struggle to get to 10, which is why I kind of had to add some cheating ones and a couple bonus ones and my least favorite intuitive one. No, I don't even want to call it my least favorite. It's just my not so intuitive one at all. Anyway, enjoy your day, your evening, your week, whatever, and I will see you when I see you. Thank you for spending time with me.